He comes off as a very, charming, charismatic, good-looking guy.
Monique says she and her now ex-boyfriend fell in love fast.
What I did find about getting to know him so quickly was he has a lot of underlying issues.
Issues she noticed that started manifesting in their relationship, first with name-calling.
To pinches behind my arm because I said something he didn't like and we were in front of people.
To protect Monique, we decided to only use her first name. We offered Monique the option to remain anonymous, but it was important to her to show her face and tell her story.
When I tried to get away or break away from him, that was the worst thing it seemed like I could do to him.
She says she tried to leave several times.
He could not be alone. It went directly to, I'm gonna kill myself, you are everything I ever wanted, I'm not trying to mess this up. I wanted to give him a chance. Well, one chance turned into 10,000.
She recalls feeling trapped.
He wouldn't leave me alone. He would come to my house, bang on my door until I opened it, park across the street for days.
She provided this video as an example of how many times he would call her, despite blocking his number, she says.
It got to a point where I basically knew I wasn't gonna get out of that relationship.
Meanwhile, she says, it escalated physically.
I had gotten really used to how well to put on makeup covering up black eyes.
Then, during a trip to Colorado for a friend's wedding,
dragged me out of the bed by my hair.
She says a neighboring hotel guest heard and called 911.
Cops come and they took him away.
He was later sentenced for assault and disturbing the peace.
They then issue his probation.
Colorado allowed him to return to California, designating responsibility of his 1-year probation to Sacramento County.
It was no drinking, no drugs, no guns, no more violations of any sort.
We began investigating California's handling of domestic violence cases and how the system is supposed to work.
Called the Batterers Intervention System, is made up of 3 entities: the court, the probation department, and program providers. When a domestic violence incident occurs and the court places the offender on formal probation, they're assessed and monitored by a county's probation department, then required to register and go through a 52-week program provided by a number of facilities throughout California.
So it really is incumbent on all of 3 of these major players to be playing their role appropriately.
But the California Auditor's Office found in their October 2022 audit, this system is broken at all 3 levels. In probation departments, they discovered a basic lack of guidelines.
The probation departments often did not have policies and procedures within their own departments on their offender supervision.
And when a violation of probation did occur,
the probation departments and the program providers did not report many of the violations to the court.
Monique said she experienced this firsthand. After they returned from Colorado, months passed, and she saw no action from Sacramento probation.
He didn't enroll in his classes. Because they were lagging and they weren't really pushing on anything, things got way worse.
Now, the Sacramento County Probation Department refused to comment on Monique's case. They declined our request for an on-camera interview, but did say in a statement they utilized their limited resources as efficiently and effectively as possible, but are struggling to fill job vacancies within the department, and that's why they have a high caseload ratio.
Monique stayed in the relationship, hoping things might change.
That made it worse. Me trying to help him made it worse.
Just 3 months after he was arrested in Colorado, another altercation here in California.
I show up, he's completely just off the wall drunk, and I go to leave because I was like, I'm done with this, I just can't. And he basically threw me to the ground, did 5-6 blows to my head. And the last thing I really truly remember was just the silhouette of his curly hair and his fist coming down. And he wasn't stopping. My screams, my cries, my everything, nothing was stopping him.
Court records reveal she was left with a number of injuries: a concussion, busted nose and lips, scratch marks on her face, and jaw damage. Reports show Sacramento police arrested him that night. He made bail almost immediately, Monique said, but eventually pled guilty to a felony charge of domestic violence corporal injury.
The forensics team was like, one more blow probably would have cracked your skull and gotten some brain swelling, and if your brain suffocates, you die.
She believes the system failed her.
His probation had been handed over in early September 2021, and if they had just been on it here in California, by December he would not have been able to do what he did.
She got a restraining order in September 2022, and records she provided us with show he violated it and his probation repeatedly.
I would see him out. He chases me down the street, clearly drunk.
She says within 6 months, she had 24 approved police reports from a number of encounters.
Had no issues with this whole coming within 100 yards thing.
When Monique tried to report these violations directly to his probation officer, both before and after the felony assault, she felt it made no difference.
She basically just responds with, "We don't communicate with anyone outside of law enforcement."
Probation officers are empowered by federal law to visit clients anytime, anywhere, and report violations when they find them.
Oh, I don't think they did anything.
Monique says this did not happen.
Nothing. For a year. Until the review date popped up in the system and said, oh, this person, they were on 1-year probation. How are they doing?
It's an example of a broader problem. The auditors found out of 25 offenders they surveyed from 5 different counties, there were 405 probation violations.
And they didn't report 50% of those to the courts.
But even when violations did make it to the court,
essentially the courts would send the offender back to the program and have them re-enroll in the program again.
to start their 52-week program over with no consequence. Some offenders were allowed to restart multiple times.
When they're not attending that program, the risk is that they would re-offend and that there would be future domestic violence cases.
We've known for a long time that the system doesn't work.
Beth Hassett is the CEO of Weave, a rape crisis center in Sacramento. She believes the 52-week program is a problem in itself.
They have to find a program, they have to pay the money, and they have to show up for 52 weeks. I think we're really setting people up to fail. And in many cases, it's really like poking the tiger. It just makes them angry every week that they have to go to this thing.
To her, the audit's findings are nothing new.
Well, I think it's really disheartening for survivors because here they've got the person that was abusing them and nobody's making them do the things that they're supposed to be doing. So it adds to that feeling that there is no hope and there is no justice in this world.
She believes the system doesn't have enough resources to hold offenders accountable.
Probation doesn't have the staff power to keep an eye on all the people they're supposed to be keeping an eye on.
Through public records requests, we found Sacramento County Probation has an average caseload size of 73 clients to each officer.
I mean, the caseloads are ridiculous for the probation officers. There's no way they can really keep track of what that many people are doing.
And in many cases, no 2 probation departments have the same standards.
Because oftentimes somebody's arrested in a county they don't even live in, and the way that county's handling it is completely different from how the county they live in would be handling things.
For Monique, not only different counties, but different states. In December, her ex was extradited back to Colorado, where he's currently serving time in jail with no bond. He's scheduled to be released in June. He will remain on formal probation in California for the next 4 years.
To me, obviously, at this point, probation means absolutely nothing. That means nothing. I felt like I just shouldn't go anywhere. Like I just need to stay home. And if I'm caught by myself for any second, it's scary. It's still scary.
Worse yet, the entities within this system have known for years that they're failing.
Going back as far as 1990, we were able to find past reviews. We're finding problems in those reports, those reviews, that were very similar to the ones we found in this audit.
It's why the California Auditor's Office made an especially drastic recommendation
to establish a state oversight agency. And we specifically asked that that be the Department of Justice.
because the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the state.
DOJ would be responsible for looking at the programs, approving and renewing them and monitoring them.
But change takes time. Right now, Hassett believes if these entities simply did the jobs they're required by law to do, it would make a huge difference.
Everybody just do your jobs. And if we need to throw more resources at keeping people accountable, I think we should do that. Let's get rid of the excuse that we don't have enough staff, we don't have enough hours in the day, and really give it a try and let's see if we can make it work.